guys, and welcome to the very first ever Logically Live. If you're tuning in, there's a couple different places that you can watch it. Number one is LinkedIn. So this is the very first LinkedIn Live. I just got approved. I've been waiting months for this. I know it's been huge, long wait list because of everybody trying to go live on LinkedIn, given the current situation. Everyone's digital, right? So super excited about being live on LinkedIn. I'm also doing Twitter. So on @InvestLogically on Twitter, we're going live there. And also YouTube. So we have our own YouTube channel. Just search Logically and you'll be able to find our videos there. And so we'll be live on there as well. So before I get started, for those who are just tuning into Logically content for the first time, obviously I have to do a little bit of a plug on who we are, ETF Logic as a company. So we started off in 2017 and really we were focused on providing better analytics when it came down to liquidity and understanding the trading and liquidity of the underlying constituents within ETFs. So our co-founders, Dan Brodsky and Emil Tarazi, they were frustrated with the lack of analytics that were out there around liquidity. And so they came from market making and trading firms. And so they went out and they started ETF Logic to try to help bridge the gap and create some of those solutions. Immediately, they started to work with ETF issuers, specifically the capital markets teams. And as they were working with them, they realized that there was more tools that were really necessary and weren't out there to begin with. And so we really break those down into 3 questions that the capital markets teams were getting and we're helping wholesalers answer. Number one is, how do your ETFs trade? How much can I pick up of them? So that kind of fits into the liquidity stuff. We created what we call our true liquidity analysis tool, where we rank, liquidity of ETFs versus its peer groups. We'll also show you something that's similar to what probably you use the ETFL function in Bloomberg for. Number 2, the question was, how does your ETFs compare against peer group names? And so we helped them answer those questions using side-by-side comparison tools, which we developed on our Logically platform. Number 3 is, how do your ETFs fit into my portfolios? So we started to create tools that helped answer those questions. So portfolio analysis tools, right? And as we were developing these tools for ETF issuers, we really realized that the use case was for financial advisors that were asking these questions of the wholesalers. So in 2018, we set out and we started to work with financial advisors to understand their workflows when it came to investment research, fund screening, portfolio construction. And so we were working with a number of advisors and developed what we call our Logically platform. And we launched that at Inside ETFs this year, rather. It's been a long year, sorry. So we launched it this year in January. And the goal is to streamline portfolio analysis, investment research for financial advisors. And we do it all in one platform. So a lot of advisors we were speaking to previously were using, multiple things they were using one thing to find ETFs. They were taking that, putting it into Excel, and then using that, narrowing it down, doing their own research, maybe in another third-party system, and then using a whole other system for portfolio construction. So we tried to make it simpler for advisors, and we created the Logically platform to make sure that it can be all done in one single system on one platform. It's web-based and cheap subscription as well. So financial advisors don't have to spend a lot of money when it comes to investment research and portfolio construction. Anyways, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here because the point of today is really to just talk about ETFs. So recently, I've been doing a number of CE webinars every single week with financial advisors. And from polling them, I've gathered some data on how financial advisors are using ETFs in their portfolio. And one of the biggest points that I thought was interesting was financial advisors are using ETFs for only about 40% of their portfolios. I found this shocking given some of the advantages that ETFs have over mutual funds. So today, I just wanted to do kind of an educational piece talking about ETFs versus mutual funds, and then also how to think about screening for ETFs. So let's dive into it and talk about why you know, advisors should be thinking about using ETFs over mutual funds. And number one, it really comes down to fees. So obviously there's expense ratios, and in the investing world, it's increasingly fee conscious, right? So we've heard a lot about ETF issuers and what they call the race to zero, which is a zero expense ratio. Obviously, they still need to make money, so there's been a lot of debate over that. But as an advisor, you should also be thinking about fees for your clients as well. So obviously, there's the fees you charge them, but when it comes down to investing in funds, you should really think about the costs that you're carrying onto your investors. So mutual funds, the average equity mutual fund expense ratio is about 1.4%. And according to data from our Logically platform, I pulled data on expense ratios of US ETF equity ETFs, and the average expense ratio is only 0.51%. So half of a percent. So that's like 3 times less on average that you're paying for an ETF compared to a mutual fund. That's huge. That can equate to hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're talking about clients' portfolios that are millions of dollars, right? So that's a pretty big difference. The other thing too, when you're thinking about fees, is something called 12b-1 fees. So mutual funds often charge something that's called a 12b-1 fee. And what is that for? It's basically to cover the cost of distribution, marketing, and selling those mutual fund shares. And sometimes it's even used to cover the cost of providing shareholder services. So that's obviously one thing to think about, is the fees when it comes down to ETFs versus mutual funds. Another big thing when it comes down to ETFs versus mutual funds is liquidity. So ETFs trade on an exchange just like a stock, which means that they can be bought and sold throughout the day. And what does that mean for advisors and investors? It means more efficient to access, because you can quickly trade in and out of ETFs throughout a day. If there's a huge event, liquidity event, or risk event like what we've seen earlier in March with the pandemic, right? ETFs allow advisors and investors to quickly make some transitions and protect their assets during times like this. The other thing that all-day trading provides is better liquidity. So mutual funds can only be traded at the end of the day once the fund NAV has been announced. So once it settles and the NAV of all the underlying constituents, then you can go ahead and trade in a mutual fund. But if you're talking about a huge down day, it might be too late at the end of the day, right? So ETFs offer better liquidity and movement, so you're able to move in and out of them very quickly when we're talking about certain events. The other thing is tax efficiency. So ETFs offer better tax efficiency than mutual funds because they incur less capital gains taxes. So with mutual funds, the fund can actually incur capital gains taxes. With ETFs, only the investor incurs capital gains taxes. So much more efficient when it comes down to your taxes when using ETFs. So did I sell you guys on using ETFs yet? If I did, awesome. So let's talk about how to navigate the ETF marketplace. There are so many ETFs in the universe, over 2,400 ETFs in the US, over 9,800 if you're talking global listings. So that's a huge amount of ETFs. A lot of them probably look pretty similar, have similar names. So how do you think about which ones to pick for your clients and your portfolios, right? So there's a quick top-down formula that I like to think about when I'm picking ETFs. And number one is, what is the geographic exposure I want? Is it US only, international, or region or country specific? Then number two, what is the asset class mix I'm looking for? Is it all equity? Is it fixed income? Is it a mix between the two? Is it a 60-40? Figuring that out is very important when you're thinking about what ETFs and how to narrow down the universe of ETFs to select ones for your portfolios. Number 3 is, what is the sector exposure? Am I looking for specific sector exposures such as consumer staples, financials, or is it more broad? Number 4, is there a specific index that I want to track? And number 5, is there a specific stock that I want to look at? So obviously there's a lot more things that you can do to kind of narrow down the universe. Today I'm just going to go through those 5 on the Logically platform. And then next time, the next live, we'll go a little bit deeper to compare those once you've narrowed down the universe a little bit more. So I'm going to pull up the Logically platform now. Okay, awesome. I have the Logically platform up. So as you can see on the Logically platform, we've already helped advisors out by breaking down peer groups of ETFs. So if you already have a specific peer group that you're thinking about when it comes down to screening for ETFs, we've already broken it down for you. So you can go ahead, again, thinking about it from the formula that I said before. Is it US exposure that I'm looking for or international exposure? In this case, I'm looking for US equity ETFs. I already have this open, but I'll just show you, I'll click it again. And you can see here, we've broken down these peer groups. So am I looking for US large cap, US broad-based, small cap, tech sector? So we've broken it down by sectors, market cap. These are some of the basic ones that we've done. If you're looking for something more specific, such as what we call a tilt, you guys probably know it as smart beta. I'm going to go to US equity tilts. And here we go. Maybe I'm looking for dividend ETFs. I can go here and I can see all US dividend ETFs. Maybe it's US ESG ETFs. So we've broken this down for you already. But let's say I'm going to go back and go into the detailed screener. And I'm going to run through the formula that I said before, right? So what's my asset class that I'm looking for? Right now, I'm going to look for equity. I'm only going to look at ETFs, and we didn't really dive into the other kinds of exchange traded products. But for right now, just going to look at ETFs. Primary listing only. Where's the trading region? I'm going to say Americas. And the trading country, I only want to look at US listed ETFs. Again, this is an international platform. So if you have clients that are dual citizens, they have funds outside of the US, they want to invest outside of the US, et cetera, you're able to look at all those international listings as well. So obviously looking at this is a pretty big list of ETFs now. We have 1,800 funds that are labeled equity US ETFs. So let's talk about the next thing that I wanted to look in the formula, which was the benchmark. So here we can choose, to look at index providers. In this case, I only want to look at S&P 500 ETFs. So there's a couple different ways that we break this down. So I'm just going to look at the plain vanilla S&P 500. And you can see here now, we've narrowed it down to 38 funds. Some of these are short funds or leverage products, but I'm going to go ahead and I can see all these different stats now. And I narrowed the universe down from 1,800 funds to only 38 funds now. So let's say I wanted to narrow it down even further. And there's a lot of different ways that I could do that. I can say, maybe I want ETFs that only have a specific fund assets or AUM. So I did an average expense ratio of under 1%. And we can see here now all the ETFs that are under 1%. Let's say I want to also do some more filtering. There's more ways that I can do that. I can narrow it down based on specific ETF issuers, classifications. So again, if I'm thinking about specific exposures to countries or regions, I can narrow it down even further. In this case, since it's all S&P 500, it's all going to be US large cap. I can think about subsectors as well. And then this is interesting too. So we just added this feature and it's called ranking. And basically what we're doing is we're deciling ETFs and saying that we're ranking them against each other on specific metrics such as volume, expense ratio, performance, volatility, income, and diversification. So I can play around with any of these things and further narrow it down. So let's say I'm looking for ETFs that have a high volume or that are in the top 50% when it comes down to volume. So now I just have that universe again. I'm down to 24 funds. And I can see here those 24 funds. Or let's say we want to look at the top performers, so the top 50% of performers. And now here we are. I'm down to 14 funds. So this is a great way to kind of go through and think about how to pick ETFs based on that quick formula. Again, like I said, this is only the first live that we're doing. I plan to do one every single week. So next week, we'll dive a little bit deeper into these tabs that you see here and maybe do some more detailed screening and comparison once we've narrowed down that universe of ETFs. I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Very first LinkedIn Live. I appreciate the viewership. If you guys want to access the platform, I'll show you how to do it right now as well. So go ahead and I'll drop a link as well in the comment section. But if you go to app.logically.finance/sign up, enter, put that in the browser there. And here we go. Here's the sign up page. I'm going to put my email, my create a password. It's got to be one lowercase letter, one uppercase letter, one number, one special character, and 8 characters in length. And this is very important if you guys want to have access to all of the portfolio tools and a free trial for 7 days. When it asks you to have a sign-up code, click yes. Yes, you have a sign-up code, and enter the code LOGICLY, LOGICLY 2020. Agree to the end user license agreement, and then sign up. You're going to get an email from us to confirm your account. Once you've confirmed your account, you'll be able to use the ETF screener tool, which I just showed you, as well as the portfolio analysis tools. If you guys need any help throughout, you can go ahead and use this orange smiley face chat feature here. So you can go ahead, open that up, and get in touch with us. There's my face there, so you can send us a message if you need help signing up or accessing the platform. If you want to book a demo with us as well, you can do it through that chat feature. We'll book a demo so we can show you all the portfolio analysis tools as well. Again, thank you guys for coming on, checking out the first ever Logically Live.